Yo, what's up, everyone? My name is Zenitsu, and we are back with the Digitalks podcast, the show that covers various topics from news to meta developments and everything in between for the fine folks who love the Digimon trading card game. Just as a quick reminder, I do try to stream this live over on twitch.tv/Zenitsu, but fear not, because it's always going to be uploaded as a YouTube video under the channel of Zenitsu, as well as being on various podcasting platforms like Spotify for your viewing and listening pleasure. Please feel free to do that whole social media doobly-doo thing and leave that like, rating, follow, subscribe, review, whatever, depending on the platform that you're listening on. It really does help support the podcast, or at least we like to think it does. So today I am back with a Guardian from Team Blank, and Nationals just happened. So obviously, come Nationals, there's just a metric butt ton of announcements and news and more cards and all that fun stuff. And that's probably going to be the bulk of the conversation, is just mostly focused on news, maybe getting into a little bit of EX11 towards the end. But there's just a lot to go over. So before we get into going over that, we have the comment of the week. So again, feel free to leave a comment down in the comment section below if you want your comment to be read for next week's episode. And I do sometimes prioritize channel members over normal, like, subscribers or followers. So think about becoming a channel member, and that's going to increase your chances on having your comment read. Sometimes we will read more than one of them, but sometimes that one spurs off into its own conversation. So today we have Global Digital Empire. He had a really great comment, minus the fact that he really didn't like my take on Sloppy Joes. That's fine. But when it comes to the actual bulk of the comment, it was in relation to basically a design shift that we've kind of been noticing in the last couple of sets. I liked to call it slop design. So yeah, if you're unfamiliar with what I defined as slop design, you could either pause the video, go back and watch the other episode, or I'll just quickly say a little summary here. Basically, Digimon's trying to take more broader archetypical designs again. So like, we've seen it with Heroes, CS, Time Strangers, DM, Adventure. We're going to be seeing it with Beat Break and with Data Squad. So, like, those are the types of archetypes where there's a lot of different things going on inside of that singular archetype, which allows you to have a little bit more variety in terms of what you're able to play with, while cards are still more trying to specifically interact with that specific trait. So, Global's actual comment says, this design choice of traits over colors and evolution lines is a double-edged sword. It allows new archetypes to have enough good cards to make a 50-card deck on release, which helps Bandai with their overall sales. But then we've completely lost any color identity the game had, which is a very fair and valid point, because the whole point of slop design is you're going to be evolving on cards of that specific trait. You're going to have a lot of different Digimon in that with a whole bunch of different evolution lines, which means you're essentially a rainbow kind of color deck. So you're going to be playing more than 1 to 2 specific colors, which does tend to lock you out of some of the game staples, but Bandai likes to print equivalents to those staples for these archetypes so that it enables their game plan just as much as every other deck in the game when it comes to how these staples function, which I still need to get into a staple video, another one, but that's in the works. So what are your thoughts about this archetypical design and what Bandai is gaining versus what they're sacrificing?
So I do think he's very well correct on this. The fact that Bandai has, for some reason, decided to go straight down a more lore accurate wise build for Digimon decks than the general slop that we all come to know and love. But it is a double-edged sword. In one way, it makes people buy more of the first of the sets. This way they can build a deck straight out of the box and then fall back on the bloody I lost my train of thought on the other sets to try and fix it up. We've seen this coming multiple times, like with Hoodimon and Medusamon, both which have been topping multiple times in tournaments. Another one that falls straight into this would be my deck, Mastimon, or our other teammate Headless's deck, Rocks and Jessmon. All these decks just follow the strict line portion archetypes for the most part, and then you have to work that plan a certain way just to get it off the ground.
I mean, it's really interesting to think about just how Bandai's philosophy in terms of design shift with the different designers and like what they're trying to gain out of the game each specific year, because we saw like in Block 0, the very first year of the game, there was pretty much no archetypes, no theme, no nothing. It was just,
It was go big, go burr, go smack.
yeah, there was no real cohesion to anything. It was, we're just going to play with the best of what we have. We're going to follow the colors as best as we possibly can. Obviously,
Unless
some
you're Mega Zoo, then you're just slamming down.
yeah, Megazoo or Security Control, and even then they tried to limit on the colors, so that way they actually can use proper colored options outside of like tech tamers. But we didn't really have like that much deviation when it comes to colors until probably about the third year of Digimon,
So
when we got Cross Wars.
So actually, it's actually more recent that one of my other groups was talking about on this, and we were starting to see the more recently of this instead of Cross was actually the snowball hit of BT 15 and 16 when it came to Imperial and the lines in those sets. You know,
Cross was really the only, like the first sloppy one, and even then it was still trying to be relatively lore accurate and contained to like just wanting to use itself. And it had like some awkward, like we saw with Blue Flare, they did have some like creative liberties to run outside tech based on different archetypes. So it was like probably the first two examples of like the more loose archetypes. And we also saw that again with Hunters working more specifically with the save mechanic. And I think that was more of a mechanical thing rather than an archetype thing, even though we did start to see more traditional archetype based design coming from that year. I mean,
yeah.
I guess technically the year before that, where we were getting into like BT9, OTK strats, dot whatever, because there was a lot of OTK decks in that era as well that were more like that was the start of more traditional archetypes by name. Because archetypes for Digimon, there's three different levels of it. There's trait, there's name, and there's their typing or attribute. So, like yellow vaccines, as an example, technically is an archetype. Um, but then you also have angels, which are also vaccines, but not all of the angels rely on the vaccine based cards. Then, obviously, like if you're going even further into this, you have like Angemon, where a card could specifically stay, I care about Angemon lined cards. So those are
Yeah.
like the main archetypes on how they work within Digimon. And they've played around with this idea before, but it didn't really feel cohesive until pretty much now with all of the consistency tools that the game has developed and the speed increase and the power increase. Like now we're really starting to feel the effects and ramifications of this type of design.
Yeah.
Especially since like the more recent batch, which I would probably argue started with DM, or it technically started with adventures, where adventures you have a whole bunch of different cards of a whole bunch of different colors, and Digimon they all can digivolve on top of adventure, and like you basically just pick and choose what mechanics you want, and all of the other cards pretty much do almost the same thing. Then you see that again with DM, you see that again with CS, we see it now with TS, or yeah, TS. Um, so it's a reoccurring pattern that has been coming up more and more within these more recent archetypes in terms of how open and broad that they can be, and the mechanics, like their core mechanic, on top of all of the color based mechanics that it's playing around with. Because
Yeah.
I was having a talk at locals, where one of my locals peeps, he got really mad that like black is pretty much in everywhere, and it's like de-digivolve is everywhere just because of two colors. And that was like an early fear that I had, like way back when they started doing two colors, is if we get enough of these cards, then the color pie starts not mattering, because you'll have blue decks that have access to black mechanics and vice versa. And it's just like, yes, that opens up deck design, but if you keep doing that over and over again, then everything is going to end up doing everything. And that's pretty much what we're into right now, which prompted the comment. At least that's how I'm reading it.
No, I agree 100% on how you phrase that. Everything has basically just snowballed all the way further down into what we are right now, where we are strictly either name based or we're following trait based as far as CS and TS.
Yeah, like color in Digimon has mattered the least in this current era, and the color is just an indicative of the type of mechanic you could expect out of the card. Because
Hmm.
on a lot of the two color cards, just as an example, they'll always have one ability from one color and another ability from the other color. So take I'm just gonna pick on Neptunemon as an example. He has a very stereotypical black protection based ability, but he also has the bounce removal of blue. So, like, that's the dual dichotomy of what that card is doing. And because he has that dual dichotomy, on top of the fact that he can be played in any Time Stranger deck, okay, now Time Stranger has access to both of those types of mechanics. So, while also running potentially other colors to have all of the other mechanics. And as we saw with Hoodie, that kind of created a lot of imbalance, because Hoodie could do everything that every other deck can do, but sometimes just better.
Yeah. And then,
Because Hoodie's core mechanic was just that much stronger in order to start snowballing the game.
yeah, and it just took over. I'm happy we during this last nationals, Hootie got knocked off its throne a little.
It did and it didn't. Like, Hoodie as a deck has
I said a
rarely
little.
has rarely actually gotten in first place in terms of tournaments, but it always makes up the majority, or is a very high percentage of whatever is in top, like, top cuts. So top 16, top 32. Most of the time for Digimon, we just care about top 16, because that's the data that we're generally given. But like
Yeah.
even in like top eights and whatnot, and like the like macro, like taking it way back, just everything that's being played, Hoodie is one of the most popular decks. And I had this argument on Facebook where I don't even think Hoodie as a Digimon is that popular. I don't see anyone saying my favorite Digimon is Hoodie, therefore I love this deck. I honestly think people are playing Hoodie because of its power and not because of its popularity.
Yeah, it's kind of the same thing when you fall into TS with that sense of just is not my favorite. It's just powerful. It helps me win.
I would say TS has a little bit more fanfare because the
Because the
Time
game,
Stranger, yeah, because the game literally came out and it was actually really good. And a lot of people do like the Olympus 12, and the Olympus 12 is like a very underrepresented group of Digimon. So the fact that they had an entire game with multiple sets that's going to be coming out of support, like people really do seem to enjoy Time Strangers, and you could even look at sales data to reflect this, where it's just like Hoodie right now, as of the recording of this video, is like anywhere between $8 to $10 a card. Why is that if Hoodie is still one of the best decks in the game currently? It's because she's not popular. Casuals don't like her. They don't care for her. She's not an interesting enough Digimon to warrant the fanfare where people are going to be buying her up en masse. But you look at, let's just say, Homeros, and yes, Homeros is a staple in every single Time Strangers deck that's not a Titan-related deck, but there's more fanfare for Homeros than there is for Hoodie, even though they are both waifu-coded characters that are coming from very good Digimon games.
Yeah.
And Homeros, you could even argue, sees like less in appearance in her game than Hoodie does in hers. I haven't finished Hacker's Memory, so I don't know exactly how prominent Hoodie is in their respective game.
She is your main mission point. Her her tamer Erica, she basically tells you go run over here, do this a majority of the time. So she's fairly more prominent.
Yeah, so like the fact that you have a slightly more prominent character in another successful Digimon game and arguably one of the best decks in the current format, and the price wise is underperforming because people just like the casuals just do not give a care. Like they do not care.
They want the win, and that's all they want.
Right, it's literally just the competitive players who just want to win because they could tech Hoodie to handle various different aspects of the meta, which is what makes Hoodie, as a broad statement, very strong. Because you have like OTK Hoodie, you have Control Hoodie, you have a mid-range Hoodie. Like there's multiple different ways to be able to approach the deck based on some of the minor techs that you're going to be including and some of the shifts in deck building.
Yeah.
But yeah, people are just playing Hoodie because she's strong, not because people actually like her as a Digimon.
Yep.
At least
But
the data that I have suggests as much.
that is a good point to segue into talking about the actual point on Nats.
Yeah,
So
so Nats happened.
Hootie is only 25% of the top eight, or the 25% of the top eight that actually made it into Nats. So it's still up there. While TS, surprisingly, has upped its chances. What are your thoughts on this, Sam?
I mean, so it makes sense that the slop decks are going to be more represented because just as I was saying with Hoodie, there's multiple different ways to be able to build these slop decks, which allows them to potentially overperform because their toolbox is fundamentally deeper than some of the more focused decks. Granted, the more focused decks, yes, they're more focused. The one thing that they're doing it better than the majority of other things if you were to take a broad stroke. But at the same time, we're seeing that even though, yes, Hoodie, I'll spoil it, Hoodie did not win Nationals, Hoodie was still a very highly prominent deck inside of Nationals as a whole. I think Hoodie definitely, probably, I don't want to say definitely or probably. There was a high chance Hoodie came in fourth. And as you can see, Hoodie is two of the top eight. When it comes to the other two, it was TS. I know one of them was more Merva focused, and like I'm having a hard time saying that because all I really saw was Sylphie engine dot generic good stuff in terms of the top ends that fit the Time Stranger trait. So like that was just what was played. I don't know if that was the other person who was on Time Stranger or not. Then we got Medusa, Mastimon. Don't know which version of Masty. We have Jessmon.
So the Massimon version was Cat.
Oh, it was the Purple Dog engine.
Cat. Mirei Cat engine.
Oh, it was okay. It was Mirei's own stuff. Okay, so it was more true to form Mastimon versus CS Masty or Dark Animal Masty.
Yeah,
Okay. Which makes sense. I think like her own stuff is really good. But yeah, it just goes to show that like
it's her survivability. She can't really handle the Digivolve, and that's why a lot of Mastimon players have started the Tekken Dark Knightmon from EX10.
really.
Yeah, because Dark Knightmon can be played off of your CS, and it just says your Mastimon can't be Digivolve now.
Okay. I'm not following Masty as a deck, so I don't particularly know. I just know there's a lot of different Masty decks. Then you have
Yeah,
Jessmon, which obviously if they're showing Genkumon means that it's Jess and Genku together. And then you had
it hasn't really
Rocks.
changed.
Yeah, and then you had Rocks. So I know Ben was on Rocks. He placed third. I'm gonna spoil that right now. And people who sleep on Rocks, like I keep telling people not to sleep on OTK decks. And Rocks is one of the best OTK decks in the entire game. That now also just got better with EX11. So please heed my advice. Do not sleep on Rocks. Rocks will just come out and clap cheeks without much of a thought because Rocks is still one of the best stack based and OTK based decks in the entire game. That being said, Medusamon is a pretty decent mid range deck. It doesn't necessarily kill the opponent all that often, but it can still hit really hard. Set up Stragiomon to basically say, okay, you have to deal with this, otherwise you're dead next turn. And that's kind of the
Yeah,
same role
and
that
for it
Masty
reaching
does.
second place was still quite surprising. And congrats to the player who got second place with it.
Yeah. And that's kind of the same as like what Masty and Jess is doing is like they're not particularly OTK decks. Mastimon you could tech to be more OTK focused, but you have to like really hone in
You
on
have
that
to
OT.
answer her before she becomes a problem.
Yeah, like a lot of these decks are just I might not kill you in a single turn, but I'm going to set up such a threat where you have to respond, otherwise you just die the next turn.
Yeah,
Um
and Mastimon is just one of those decks to where she can go both ways. To where if she has enough memory, she will kill you in that turn.
yeah, and that's where like Hoodie and Time Strangers has a little bit of an edge is because their flexibility allows them to have that same play pattern where it's just like, oh, Hoodie could still OTK people like as early as turn 2. Like that still can just happen.
Yeah,
And
literally just
and
freaking
so can
CS
time
it.
yeah, and so can Time Strangers. Like they could just kill you on turn 2 without much of a thought sometimes.
But
Um
Time Strangers does it a lot easier because of the promos of freaking Gomamon and Demi Devi.
it's not even really the promo's fault. Like if you really want to point fingers on exactly where Time Strangers is OTKing, cuz I have the deck right in front of me or at least like I'm building a Marukimon OTK deck. If anyone hasn't seen my live stream of just me playing that deck, it's so disgusting. It's actually the Haruko and Asuna's fault. Like there
Yeah,
it's the Haruko, Asuna, and Dan and Yuki's fault. Like,
Dan and Yuki is a war criminal. At this point, they are one of the more toxic parts of Time Stranger.
oh, 100%. And like that's the fear of slop design is like the idea is it's easier to spot where the problematic cards are, but the hard thing is there's so many
How to
of
deal
them.
with them.
Yeah, there's so many of them that like what do you actually do? It's just like, okay, if you were to ban anything from Time Strangers right now, let's just say Dan and Yuki, it's just like, okay, cool. They can still OTK because you still have Asuna and Haruko. Is it a little
Not to
harder?
mention Inori her and her lines.
Yeah, is it a little bit harder to OTK? Yes, and that's kind of
A little
like the
bit.
point. But that's why I think like we'll get into it later. I think like out of any Time Stranger card, Dan and Yuki should definitely get limited. That card's like an actual borderline war criminal.
Borderline? I've already said, man, that thing is the war criminal. There's no
Yeah.
borderline on that.
No, because I was going back and forth if it should be Homeros or not, and I'm just like, okay, isn't
Homeros,
Homeros is a lightning rod. Like Homeros is an illusionary threat where like yes, it is a very strong card. It is very threatening, but like Dan and Cannon just are the better cards. Like it just is the better card that enables way more toxic and degeneracy when it comes to how Time Strangers plays.
yeah. So Homeros is the accidental pull in because of Dan and Yuki. It's balanced because if you give your opponent 4 memory, they're forced to tap it and they can't really do anything about it because they lose out the end of turn. Homeros can't really do much anymore, and it's just strictly a draw and a memory. Yes, they can just build their line normally, but they lose out a lot of effects because they want to be at 4 or less memory. Where Dan and Yuki's just like, nah, man, you don't have an option? Sure, fine. Go ahead and have an extra swing. And with something like Sylphimon, if you use like Maruki or something that unsuspends, it just makes the extra guarantee on you're taking all 5 security right then and there.
Yeah, no, Dan and Cannon is absolute disgusting card that should not have been printed. But we'll get into that later because we still have more news and announcements. So if anyone's actually curious as far as what won nationals, that goes to Time Strangers. Um, that took nationals first place. Then in second place you had Medusamon, and third place you had Rocks. That's as far as the standings as we know. Um, we don't really
We're still
know.
waiting on Eggman to post the full analyst of the top 16.
I think depending. So Risu's the one who handles the Digimon side of Eggman. So like Eggman will give Risu the data um, to post it. So I don't know if Risu's been like super extra busy where he hasn't been able to upload some of the other stuff, but
It's
Eggman
only
events.
been it's only been like 3 4 days. Usually Eggman it takes Eggman a week just to get all the data because a lot of the players tend to scatter the moment everything's over.
Well, Bandai already has all of that through their Bandai app. That's why they do that.
Mm. Well, we'll have to wait and see then.
Yeah, we don't know in what capacity we're gonna get like the actual deck lists and meta breakdown, but this will lead into the second point, which is we are actually getting a ban and restriction announcement on Shocker Worlds, which is March 15th.
So that means that we are going to be getting the actual announcement on probably on the 13th to give players enough time to update their decks.
No, it's post Worlds. Worlds will happen
Oh,
without the ban and restriction list in place because it's taking effect as of April 4th. So pretty much the beginning of April is when it's going into effect, and they're going to announce what they're hitting after Worlds is done.
so then it's going to be hitting on the 15th or 16th
Uh,
then. Okay, yeah.
yeah, they
Yeah,
said
I see what you mean now.
yeah, they said the announcement is on March 15th is when they're going to say what is getting hit, and then it's going to go into effect on April 4th. So I guess
Okay.
this we could probably make a whole episode on the ban and restriction list because like there's
Stay tuned
actually
for that, everybody.
there's actually a lot of cards that deserve to be hit to try to balance the game. But like I posted on Facebook and in Digimon's official announcement, I don't know if they're actually going to hit a lot of cards this time because
They
the
won't.
game.
They never do.
No, so the trend is they've been hitting more and more cards each ban and restriction update because more cards are deserving to be hit because they want to try to like kill particular unhealthy play patterns, which is good for the game overall. And they've been designing more cards that do the exact opposite, which creates these play patterns which are toxic and unhealthy for the game, which is why they need to go and why they hit them and why they've been increasing the ban and restriction list. So like the last three We went from 8 cards to 10 cards to 12 cards. Like it's only been going up each time. So theoretically, if that trend continues, they should be hitting at least 14, 16, maybe even 20 potential cards. And there are,
Please be the 20.
yeah, and there actually are that many cards that are warranting that type of limitation placed on them. The only problem comes from the fact that they just keep printing more of this broken shit. So it's just like, how can they actually take their data that they have on what was performing good that literally just gets power crept out of the game the next set later? So it's just like, oh, we had, let's just say, doggies. Anyway. So, let's use Machine Dramon just as a good example. I think he's still a good deck. Nobody's playing him right now. Why? It's because there's just better shit that came out. Is there stuff in Machine Dramon that might be warranting a ban and restriction? Maybe, probably not, but for the sake of the example, maybe. Because he was a very powerful card. He was topping a lot of events. He was doing things really, really fast, being a complete nuisance. Like, let's just say Vaidmon is a card that they would consider getting hit. They can't anymore because the deck's not performing anymore because there's more powerful shit that just came out. So it's just like, oh, why are we going to be hitting decks that aren't performing anymore? Because the new stuff is more problematic. And the issue with that is because it's the new stuff, there's less likelihood that it's going to get hit. So them hitting these decks is just pushing us to play the more powerful new shit, and it's creating a very toxic feedback loop that isn't very healthy for the game overall.
Yeah. So it's not going to be exactly a great ban list because they're going to have to hit the general cards that are causing the unhealthiness of the game. Like, they're going to have to touch Hootie in some way, great portion, or they're either going to touch Chitose, Hootie itself, or they're going to do a choice restrict on Hootie and the CS rookies.
No,
Forcing you to.
the correct, after playing enough Hoodie, the correct answer is Hoodie herself. That is
Yeah.
objectively the correct answer. As we saw with Nationals, like if anyone watched Nationals, Hoodie can play just fine without Chitose. Absolutely just fine. Is Hoodie easier with Chitose? Yeah, sure, but Hoodie can still be played and do all of the toxic degenerate stuff even without Chitose. The problem is literally Hoodie herself. You could even say like, oh, just choice restricts the rookies with Hoodie, just like you said. The problem is Digilab exists as a card that does fundamentally the exact same thing as what those rookies do, which they just printed as a promo. So it's just like, okay, cool. I'll take out the rookies. I'll just run Digilabs, which Digilab can be played for free off of one of their tamers. So, oops, I guess nothing really changed. The only answer for stopping Hoodie as a deck and being as prominent and powerful as it is literally Hoodie itself. There is nothing that they can touch in the deck to slow it down enough to where it actually fundamentally matters. I mean, they could technically take out the DNA, the Shakamon, but Hoodie could just run the other DNAs, and sure, you can't loop them, but now Hoodie just turns into an engine to facilitate any color top end you want, because it could run the majority of DNAs. So that's not really much of an answer either.
Yeah. Yeah, I see your point on this. Yeah, Hootie is definitely has to be on the chopping block. On that sense, who in Massimon do you think it would be on the chopping block? Starter Gato?
I have no idea. We're probably gonna have to do a ban and restriction video. Ideally next time, like next episode. Just because, like, again, we could have a whole episode, but just to kind of like preface it, as like for the sake of the example on why I think like they really like this is why I've been championing they need to ban and restrict things more often, because then they could sell the set. It sells well for the 3 months that it's legal, and then they could hit the card and then make the game healthy. Like, they have to do that.
So Pokemon it.
Yes, they kind of have to take a page from Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh! Where it's just like, okay, this new stuff is hyper toxic and degenerate. We'll let it go rampant for a little bit, and then the next set, we'll just hit it so that way we could try to actually more proactively fix the game. Because there's no reason why Hoodie was allowed to go on this rampage for 6 months, other than the fact that there was not that many events to be played in. But you could argue
Yeah.
that the events that Hoodie is legal in are arguably some of the most important events in the entire year. So it's just like, okay, they reasonably, when BT24 came out, could have addressed the Hoodie problem. They had the data to address the Hoodie problem from all of the BT23. Like, it's not rocket science. And like, yeah, there's ways that we could play out of Hoodie, but Hoodie's just not fun and enjoyable. Like, full stop. For the opponent, she is not an enjoyable deck to play against.
No, she is not. I played her, and I don't like her.
It's the same. I built her fully expecting something to be limited from her, but like at this point, with how well Time Strangers is doing, is Hoodie actually still that big of a problem? Especially when the next set, Time Strangers is arguably going to get stronger, and the problem with Time Strangers is going to get worse, while Hoodie is not gaining any new tools and is actually gaining more bad matchups as things develop and progress.
Yeah, but
See, that's kind of
it's
like the
just the
issue.
slam
It's like,
that
can
Hootie just
we.
needs to be hit.
Right, but like that's kind of the dynamic and the issue that we find ourselves in is like it's the same thing with Gallantmon. Like I'm shocked more people aren't playing Gallantmon because he's still one of the best red decks. He basically can do almost everything every other red deck can do just as well.
You know why they aren't playing it? Hootie.
Yeah, they're not playing it because of Hoodie. They perceive him to be a stronger deck, but for like where Red currently is in the meta and why Medusamon was able to do so well is like because Red is starting to be like the trash hate color, and there's a lot of decks that are abusing the trash, and Gallantmon still has some of the better trash hate in the game currently. He's not directly picking cards out of the trash like what Medusamon's doing, but like
Well,
Gallantmon still has
that's
a lot
debatable.
of very powerful and problematic low end cards, like like Growlmon X Antibody. Can we?
I
Can
think it
they?
needs to go on the block, but it won't
Right.
because it got announced in the news we will talk about later.
Yeah, but like that's kind of the problem where it's just like, okay, he was a problem when he first came out. He Gallantmon as a deck ended up getting some severe hit, not really severe hits. He got some limitations placed on him the first ban and restriction update, and he's still being a very strong deck, but again, because power creep is a bitch, and like there's just other more powerful decks, is he actually still a problem where they should consider banning and restricting cards? The answer is obviously yes, they should, just to stay face and make the game healthy. But like, if he's already power crept out of the meta, like, why hit cards from him? And that's why like this ban and restriction list is going to be a very important ban and restriction list. I keep saying that most ban and restriction lists, but this one definitely feels like it's going to be a very big tipping point because the power escalation is like absolutely absurd. Like it's gotten crazy high. At least like this past year compared to other years. I honestly think this past year had more power creep going into it than previous years. And the only time we've seen like a power spike this large probably was EX, what was it? EX6 BT15. Like that was
Uh,
probably one of the it was EX6 BT15, BT16, BT17. That was one of the last big power spikes. And like there's always power spiking, but like in terms of large leaps of power.
no,
Um
yeah, you're right. It was the 15, 16, 17 because that's when Imperial was just getting beefed up alongside Yellow Vaccine. But
right.
Yellow Vaccine got handled almost like that.
Right, but now we're at a point where Imperial's not even being played because there's just other arguably better things to play. So like is the problematic cards for Imperial still actually a problem? The
Yes.
again the answer is yes, but meta wise it doesn't look like it is. And I think that's part of the big problem is like the power creep and power escalation is just so rapid at this point, like more rapid than we've previously seen before, to where it's just like, what are they actually going to hit? Why are they going to be hitting them? And what are they going to do about future card design so that way they stop making the same mistake over and over again? Like, it's honestly the same mistake over and over again. Oh, we hit this card because it's causing a speed issue. Why make it then? Why make the card if you know it's going to cause a speed issue? Oh, we hit this card because it enables an OTK. Why print the abilities that enable the OTK on the card? Like, it's just absolutely maddening that they make the same mistake over and over again. So, obviously, we're going to be having a big talk about what is going to be on the ban and restriction list as far as like our wish list and just theorizing it. But the large is actually a relatively large list that probably is going to be a whole bunch of problems that's not going to be addressed because of the ever rapid power creep in the game.
Yeah.
So, went on a little bit of a tirade and tangent on that one. So back to news. What are some news? Oh yeah, we got a new rarity. UR. So uber rares are what do they call them?
Ultra rare,
Ultra
ultimate
rare.
rare,
Yeah.
freaking uber rare, whatever you want to call it. But it's more than likely is uber rare, just to follow the kind of digital like term.
They state
Terminology.
it is ultimate rare.
Ultimate rare.
Yeah.
All right, so now, yeah, we got a new card in the form of ultimate rare. This one is gonna have the secret rare qualities of the shine with something to deal with ultimate rare. If they go like Yu-Gi-Oh, they're probably gonna try and give it that little ripple texture to it.
Aesthetics aside, basically what they say is ultimate rares are basically going to be in between super rares and secret rares. So there is a new form of high rarity card coming in the form of ultimates. So now this is going to get really really divisive, I want to say, because this changes how boxes and cases work. Because before the average case math, you'll get a playset of every secret rare. So this means you'll probably get a playset with a little bit extra of every ultimate rare. So you'll probably get like, I think it was what I'm trying to remember my old math. I think in a case you were going to see an average of 6 base secrets and then 2 alt secrets. So this means you'll probably see 5, maybe 6 ultimate rares. And then what card is going to be cut for the ultimate rare?
It's probably the SR, so they don't mess with the secrets. Because as is, we already get 1 secret per box if we're lucky.
Yeah, but
So
now
it
we're
makes
probably not
sense for the
guaranteed.
SR.
Yeah, so now it's going to make SRs harder to pull unless you're buying a case. Like there's a lot of like, this doesn't seem like it's a big change, but it's actually a very huge change. And I think like this is a change. This is going to sound awful, but it's a money
The War
change.
Criminal isn't actually on the reprint list right now. Sorry, ignore me for a minute.
Yeah, so from a booster box standpoint, this is actually a very
There he is.
big change because we don't currently know how the booster box is going to function anymore, because before we knew exactly how they were going to function. We were guaranteed 7 super rares, we were guaranteed 2 hits per box, which a hit is either an alt art or a secret rare. And that's kind of just how booster boxes worked. So now, are we getting 1 less super rare? And if we do, now that's going to impact how often we see super rares, because they actually increase the amount of super rares per set to try to dilute the super rare pool to try to increase the value of them. So like it's going to be a very interesting time to see how booster boxes are going to function with this new rarity introduced. As far as the card itself that they showed off, it was a Beelstarmon, and yes, she is a Time Stranger traded Digimon with the option with the dual card typing. So
She
yes,
also comes with a new keyword.
it's not really a new keyword, but yes, this does open the door. Like this does open the door for like a card like Dan and Cannon to be potentially toxic, because is the option considered to have the time straight trait, or is that just on the Digimon? We need more
So,
clarification, and we don't particularly know that right now.
according to what we, our judge friends and the judges in the actual Bandai group, the technical thing is that both contain the trait.
All right, so Dan and Cannon can use the option portion of Beelstarmon for free for giving the opponent 6 memory, and then they get the Arts Digivolve and can do all of the other stuff. Okay, got it.
Yeah, it's not exactly fair.
And that's why a card like Dan and Cannon is like not a good card design at all. At least like not for these dual cards.
No.
And yes, if in case people are wondering, um, the card does come with the counter mechanic, which we've previously seen on exclusively aces. And now this seems like it is going to be more normalized. So,
Well,
counter.
what I'm hoping is the fact that counter will act like instants in Magic. So,
No, it's only for when they're attacking. We already know what the counter window is.
MSN.
Yeah, so this ability will trigger when the opponent is going to be attacking when all of their effects are done. So when you would be able to play an ace is when you're able to use this ability. So it still has all of the weaknesses of aces, in a sense, without the actual downside of the overflow.
Yeah, but the trade out the overflow for can't be hard slammed, so it makes it quite hard for a lot of things to actually fully use it.
I mean, it doesn't really matter if you're able to keep this card protected with something. So we already know, like with Venusmon, where it's just like, oh yeah, she could just protect our Digimon. Is it Venusmon? It's either Venusmon or Neptunemon. Either
It's
way,
Venus, Neptune, and Jupiter. Those are the protections from TS.
yeah. So either way, um, you could just get protection on her, and then now the opponent just fundamentally can't deal with the counter ability. So it's like arguably just as strong, if not stronger, than Aces. Especially if you like digivolved into her for free off of a Danon cannon. Like it's an incredibly silly card. I think
The
like
fact that she also gives the proper boost to 3 muskets is great as well.
Uh, yes, but more so looking at just like her overarching design instead of like nitpicking what her effects actually are doing. She's just an incredibly like I don't want to say overly wordy card, but she's just doing a lot. And unfortunately, like that's just what Digimon is at this point. Is cards just do a lot. But the fact that they're going to start normalizing the counter mechanic is definitely going to be a very interesting step forward for how we're approaching playing Digimon, because maybe they're going to be increasing the protection or something. I don't particularly know what the future holds, but like the fact that this counter timing for using the ability is going to be incredibly powerful going forward, and they're only going to be doing it more often, as we've seen with when moving.
Yeah, so my only hope for this is Bandai, if you ever listen to these things, do not make DNA anything like this.
Oh, like counter DNA?
No. dual DNA.
Oh, a dual DNA? I mean, there's no reason to do a dual DNA, to be honest. I
Yeah,
mean,
but they would have that kind of a option of what if we did DNA as dual card?
there's just no real reason to, because most people would just rather DNA for free rather than use an expensive option part to use the Digimon. Because the whole point is you're supposed to basically, they want you to use the option before digivolving, so the digivolution cost gets replaced with the option cost.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the incentive to do it, is because you get more out of the card for paying a little bit more. My buddy Mark compared it to basically Magic's Kicker, where it's just like, okay, digivolve to Kicker an extra 2 memory to be able to gain this option ability. Um, which, as we know right now for the context of the game, is actually going to be really, really strong, because a lot of protection is Digimon based protection when it comes to the Omni protections. Obviously, you still have, like, oh, can't be deleted, can't be bounced. Those will
Mm-hmm.
still not be affected by these types of cards.
Yeah. So we'll just have to see how this actually turns out. Overall, the Beal Star being coming into this is going to be very strong. With the fact that she counts as a TS, she counts as a three musket for options, which means there are multiple ways to use her without paying that cost at the same time. However, there are caveats, like Zan has said, to where you just pay a little bit more, basically kicker left from Magic, to gain both effects and bypass most Digimon's protections. Because we have learned our mistake from Magnamon.
Yeah,
Magnamon
and they just made that same mistake twice with Vortex Dramon. But actually, like,
Vortex
this is
is a criminal.
yeah,
Okay, I've
actually, this
played that
card's even
deck.
more broken, because I keep forgetting that Three Muskets has ways of playing their options for free. So there's actually no reason that this card's ever going to be used to pay 6 for. Especially now that
Mm-hmm.
we know it's also counted as a Three Musket traded option.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, this card's going to be absolutely insane. But the highlight isn't the card itself, it's more of the fact that uber rare or ultra rares are going to be a big shakeup to how boxes are opened.
Yeah, we'll have to see how this turns out with the upcoming set in 2 months.
Yeah, and obviously she has like her own little support card that they decided to spoil for BT25. And
Why
then
couldn't she be for Masty?
because she's for Three Muskets.
I know, I've played the game.
Three Muskets need the support. And then they revealed more sets. So obviously we knew about the Shambhala set. That was the last thing that we had any information on.
The
Um,
art of this set is freaking gorgeous.
yeah, no, it's gonna be a pretty hype set, because again, similarly to um Iliad and Olympus 12,
We are going to
Shambhala is
probably get
like brand new.
Kunlong in there.
Yeah, Shambhala is like brand new territory. We barely see and know anything about some of the Shambhala Digimon, so it's going to be very fun to see what's going to be coming from it. Um,
Of which, on that side note, it's very surprising the fact that Siriusmon is even touching itself in this. That came
uh,
out wrong.
yeah, I was gonna say check your phrasing, but yeah. So we also technically already knew about Timeless Bonds. We've covered it here. That's gonna be the next BT set. This is BT26. Supposedly it's gonna wrap up Time Strangers. Supposedly, I don't know if they're gonna have like supplemental cards in BT27.
Considering it has Chronomon, I think it's just the be all end all, and we just get little trickles here and there from now after that.
Yeah, it felt like it was going to be 3 sets in terms of what's going to be coming in it. They showed off a couple of arts for it, which is kind of neat. And then the big one is the fact that now we know the next set after is going to be Chivalrous 13 as EX 13. I see what they did there, and I hate everything about it.
Lordy.
And I hate
Hello, Royal Knights.
I really am starting to hate the fact that they just keep supporting Royal Knights. I get Royal Knights is in a lot of Digimon content, but I'm just the deck is so overtuned in terms of what it's able to do. Granted, yes, you can make the argument, oh, but it didn't even get top 8 in Nats. I don't care.
Actually looking at the art for the All Force, I see Rena in the background, which means that these Royal Knights are either going to be supporting CS or they're going to be supporting TS.
They're definitely not supporting TS.
Or no. You never know. I mean, they were very prominent in the game,
They were a side mission.
and you got that cool cutscene where they jumped Chronomon.
Fair. Fair. I really hope they're not TS support, like just incidental TS support. Believe me, TS by that point will not need it. Everyone will be sick and tired of seeing all of the TS stuff. And I feel like just when a deck is seen for too long, players just get tired and exhausted of it. Like we literally just got back to back to back to back to back sets of Royal Knight support. God, that came out so hard. My brain just couldn't say the words. Cause like this year alone, we got Special Booster 2.5, or I guess last year, we got Special Booster 2.5, which added Cool Boy, Omekamon, and Omnimon X.
Then you have EX11, which added more Omekamon and Cool Boy to support Royal Knights even further.
yeah, and in between that, Royal Knights literally got all 13 of their Royal Knights printed in the two Cyber Sleuth based sets. So they have been going for pretty much an entire year of nothing but support, getting better and better, and already getting a card limited from them specifically. Because, you know, they forgot that when attacking was a thing.
That actually brings me into the next part on basically the Royal Knights. We had a reveal for two of them in 8001 that actually brought up a little bit concern for one of our teammates, Wind Up Seraph. And it's the fact that Lord Nightmon and Dynasmon, coming from that set, yes, they are Lucamon support, but they have security effects, which raise the question of, is there going to be a card now in Royal Knights that throws them into security face up? What are your thoughts on that point, Zan?
It doesn't need to be face up. It's just when they're checked from security. And yes, they already have a card to break their security. It's called Kentarosmon. Kentarosmon is more specifically yellow card, so I believe he would be able to rig Dynasmon, but not Lord Nightmon.
They haven't revealed a Kentaros, have they?
BT 22. Was it 22? I believe it was BT 22 Kentaros.
I'm calling lies. Hang on a minute. Now you have me wondering.
Yeah, I mean, I could easily, and I probably should fact check myself too, but I'm pretty sure Kentorosmon from BT22 can rig security. Kentorosmon.
Kentaros from 22.
Yeah, Cyber Eden. Um, on play, you get to
So,
place one yellow card from your hand at the top of your security. There you go.
so yeah, he does. Wow.
Yeah, it has to be yellow, but Dynasmon is yellow. And
Yeah,
Dynasmon,
so
I think this is better than the BT20. Was it 22 or 23 Dynasmon?
which one are you thinking of?
The one that they would consider playing, because the majority of the Dynasmons are not super great.
I think it was 22.
Hacker Slumber. Here we go. God, why was their formatting so bad on TCG Player? Yeah, he's basically doing almost the same thing as BT22. His alt turns is a little bit differently. He's not gaining security attack +1. And he's also not recovering if you have 3 or fewer cards in your security. But the on play when digivolving part is the same. And arguably, this is better on the control side. This 8001 Dynast, because he just deletes a Digimon with the lowest DP. So, like, that's not irrelevant. He doesn't
No,
have barrier though, but he does also have a way to reduce his play cost, which is also kind of spooky. You're probably not going to be triggering it inside of Royal Knights, which is like the catch 22, but Royal Knights doesn't need the extra reduction on it. So it's not like that part actually matters. But yeah, so if you technically could run this new Dynasmon in Royal Knights because you have Kentarosmon to rig its security effect. Is that actually going to be good? Probably
no,
not. I think they
no,
have
no.
better
Hell no.
plays. Yeah, I think they have better plays.
That's
But
why our team. That's why Nikki was a little bit worried the fact that there's probably going to be a card that either you brought up the Kataros will actually put these guys into security a lot easier.
no, so
Maybe
these
it's a
these cards
Lucamon.
these
Maybe
cards
it's
are
a Royal Knight.
no, these cards are 100% designed for specifically their own decks in Lucamon, and then they just have the on plays so it can work inside of Royal Knights too. Like, there's 3 decks that both of these cards can go into, and Royal Knights is very much not the intended deck that it's supposed to go into.
No, they're
Because
supposed to go into
Lucamon,
Lucamon, Witchery, or Dark Knight.
yeah, they're supposed to go into their own thing or Lucamon more specifically. But like, here's the thing where it's just like, does Lucamon really care enough about these cards versus everything else that he's doing? I highly doubt it. He's already not playing any of the other ones, even though the other ones also do have Lucamon interactions. I don't see it. I don't think these cards are scary at all. They just feel like more cards that are going to be not used.
Yeah.
Cool effects for their own respective decks, and they have multiple decks that they can touch, but ultimately I don't think these are going to be very impactful. um yeah, so we got a lot of spoilers from 8001. So we got a new Aldemon and a new Beowulfmon. They have very similar designs, and they're just trying to interact with the special
The new Triple
booster.
Tamers.
Yeah, the new Triple Tamers, which are supposed to be support for the playstyle of Special Booster 2.0's hybrids. So that's all these are supposed to be. It's just more hybrid support, which is like fine. That playstyle was really bad. Um, it wasn't like that bad, but it wasn't good either. It was like fine, and fine is not where you want to be if you're trying to actually have it be a competitive deck. So cool that they got their own respective supports. We got
It's
the
cool
BT20
that we
Omecamon.
forget.
Yeah, we got BT20 Omecamon and Omnimon X Antibody reprints. So,
Gallantmon is officially coming fully back in 8001 with the fact that they reprinted almost everything for the deck.
yeah, there's a lot of like 81 reprints. So we did get more hero support from the Growlmon line. We got a new Gallantmon.
And a new
Um,
Imperial, which is actually cracked.
yeah, there's a lot of like good reprints in a lot of the like counter tech and staples. So all of the floodgates are getting reprinted. You have some like just generic staples that are getting reprinted. All of the option ones. You have a lot of Royal Knights, Gamamon, um,
This actually makes me
Shine Greymon
hopeful
support.
that they just pull a Pokemon and be like, okay, starting from 8001, we are officially rotating out everything in the back end.
Yeah, 8001 definitely is going to be a very interesting set. It's basically BT12 disguised as a reprint set for the most part, where it's just like, yeah, it's just all the protagonists are going to be getting some support. There's going to be some support for some other incidental decks and a whole bunch of like needed reprints and staples. Because the Koromon's getting reprinted from BT14. This is like de facto one of the best red eggs. So good that that's getting reprinted. Same thing with like Bukamon from BT7. Like that got a random reprint, but like it also kind of needed it because it was pretty much the de facto best egg for any fish deck. You got like some Dorumon reprints from BT7. You got Lucamon Chaos Mode and Hexablaumon that also got reprinted from their EX sets, which good they needed it. Um, Cards that are likely to get on the ban and restriction list are in the reprint set as well, which is funny because I don't think that they thought like the reprint set was already greenlit like months before the ban and restriction announcement. So like it's going to be really interesting to see what gets hit, and which is why I think like they're not really going to hit a whole lot is because of this reprint set. Like literally because of the reprint set. Granted, they shouldn't take into consideration that yes, they are reprinting like EX8 Growlmon X antibody, which should get hit.
That thing
100% should
needs to
get
get
hit.
hit just so Garuda can come back. Because Garuda was never the problem. It was that boy who
No,
was the
Garuda
problem.
Garuda can't come back because it literally says rush. And I know that's very disingenuous to say, but it literally can't come back because it says rush. That was
Eh,
the initial problem. It was because of the fact that it was basically a free extra rush body. And yes, I already know that there's very much other things that have free rush that should also get banned and restricted. But again, that's the point. Like that's the problem where they just keep making the same mistake over and over again. Yes, it would be nice if Garuda X would come back, but it can't.
hmm.
Then we got a new Omnimon. He was shown on the cover, so not a surprise to see Omnimon here. Um,
He's decent. He's
he's
not exactly the best.
this card's pretty good. Because if you look at like how many decks he's supposed to interact with, you could play him in Royal Knights, obviously. You could play him in Adventure, which is probably his intended place to be. He also just randomly is a hero, so you could use this as a generic top end to hero. He's not bad. Granted, like, because he has the assembly for War Greymon and Metal Garurumon. So that makes him a very easy card to just hard play, shove the Digimon underneath, and then basically get full value off of him. He even has partition for those as well. So again, he's not a very he's not a bad card.
He doesn't have petition.
Yeah, he
Oh, I know he
does.
does.
Yeah, what you're
Right
talking
there.
about, Wills, it literally
I just
says
saw it.
yeah, he can DNA, he's got partition, he's got raid blocker, he's got good on play when digivolving and in good all turns. Like he's not going to be the most meta defining card, but he is a very good incompetent card. Cuz you could
He
also
is
play this
definitely
in
replacing the CS Omnimon.
um maybe the CS
Return all
Omnimon.
as few as many. Yeah, this thing would definitely replace that.
The CS Omnimon still has its place because he's also a CS trait, so he's doubly
Searchable.
searchable. Yeah. So like you could take a Omnimon texted card that's not him and him at the same time. Whereas if he was just an Omnimon, he's only searchable by one of those two factors. I think
Mm.
like the Omnimon, like the Nokia style Omnimon deck will use him, but obviously based on some of the other support with the adventure stuff, they want to do like they want to turn adventures into the crisscross strategy again, which I think is like dumb, but at the same time they just been power creeping their cards. So like maybe it's feasible. The reason why it's not feasible, in case anyone really wants to know, is consistency. Like you need to see so many extra cards in order to enable the crisscross, where it's probably just functionally easier to ignore that mechanic entirely and just play the good cards. Then we got some spoilers for the new starter decks, which are cool. So obviously, these are more slop based decks, so expects that the rest of them from BT25, when we know those, is going to be slop based for Beat Break and for Data Squad. The interesting thing with the Beat Break cards is they have Glowing Dawn and Beat Break. So that leads me to believe that there's going to be more generic Beat Break cards and then more Glowing Dawn specific cards. So this is going to be extra sloppy and extra soupy.
Yeah. So if they could follow the entirety of the actual beat break story like they're going, there will more than likely be a tactics deck where it's more focused on their stuff.
I don't
while
know. I don't know how they're going to be treating Beat Break just yet, because based on previous trends, usually an entire season of the anime is going to be dedicated towards one thing. And like, yeah, they could introduce tactics, but if tactics isn't going to be used for anywhere else in the entire anime, then it kind of doesn't feel correct using them in a sense. So like
at
I
this moment, it just seems like the tactics is just the foils to the glowing
Right. So
dawn.
so you make this tactics deck and then it never gets support ever again outside of generic beat break cards. Like that's kind of the point that I'm making, because the thing with a lot of these beat break cards is they digivolve off of glowing dawn. So tactics, they would have to make enough tactics cards, which they're not going to be able to do in one single set, and they're never going to revisit it again, because look at all of the other villain sets and decks that barely got revisited. um like it doesn't, I don't know what exactly they're going to be doing, but I just wanted to point out that the glowing dawn cards are also beat break traded. So maybe beat break is going to be treated like liberator and adventure. um well, I guess technically adventure is treated more like the glowing dawn trait, but I digress. Because if we
Mhm.
see the data squad stuff, they just care about data squad and then they have their own thing. So yeah, I think like what their
Still waiting for
intention,
Mirage.
yeah, I think what their intention is going to be is they're going to start off with just glowing dawn, like everything beat break is just going to be glowing dawn, and then maybe they'll expand past that, because the anime will be done in October. Like, so
You
by
sure
the,
about that?
yes, we have one full year of beat break. It's scheduled for around 50 episodes, which is basically an entire year. I
We'll have to
follow
see.
I follow enough anime to know that we have a whole year of it. Just like how we're getting a little bit over a year of that time I got reincarnated as a slime. It's 4 seasons, like scheduled for 60 episodes.
Okay.
Yeah, so absolutely crazy. Um, then as far as other reprints, we got Susanomon Ace, because obviously they're trying to support this playstyle to get into Susanomon Ace for both of the hybrid decks, so it makes sense that they want to put that in here. Um, and then we recently just got Crimson Blaze and Demonic Disaster reprinted. Crimson Blaze needed it. That card was like reaching $5 a copy because it like BT8 just isn't being opened and this card's out of print pretty much.
Yeah. Freaking $5 for just a common is nut.
Yeah. And that's kind
Or
of,
uncommon.
yeah. And I think that's kind of just the majority of the news. I don't know if there's anything else that we haven't really touched up on.
Uh, uh
Oh, Elysian. The people were reporting that at Nationals there was the Elysian demo, and the Elysian demo was the latest to build of the game. So
oh bloody hell.
people were mentioning that there was some good UI changes to it. So like, hopefully
So
Elysian is coming.
yeah. So I actually just decided to scroll and randomly read through. So as far as Elysian coming, it's gonna be interesting to see. It's gonna be falling back on the 1, 2, 3, and 4 format where we didn't really have all this interaction. So it's gonna start off slow and ramp up as is. But yeah,
Well,
I just read this part
yeah
about
we
13 EX13, so I'll wait till you're done.
yeah we don't exactly know what per se is going to happen with that set. Um, or like with the game, because I'm sure they're still trying to figure out a lot of the logistics behind it, like how often are they releasing sets, what new cards are going to be coming with each set to make the formats feel a little bit different, because we know that from the first demo they introduced like a wide variety of new Elysian cards. um So like there's a lot of unknowns. I'm just pointing out that progress is supposedly being made and the UI did improve according to user feedback from what I've been hearing about the new demo.
Yeah. So backtracking a little bit towards this because I just saw this in the new in our news format. Apparently, EX13 is gonna be TS support Royal Knights.
Uh where'd you see that?
Forwarding it to you now.
Cuz I'm curious if I missed something. Cuz that's BT26 news. I didn't read anything as far as the
Minor discrepancy.
uh I'm just scrolling down back to where the Royal Knights is.
I just sent it
Banner.
to you straight up in message, man.
I know. Previously, yeah, minor discrepancy in EX 13. The producer described Royal Knights getting a new playstyle with Yggdrasil. The live translator referred this to a new form of enhancements with King Drizael. Note the difference as Time Stranger version of King Drazel and not in the Digimon card game yet. Okay.
As early as EX13. So we may see TS get the Royal Knights as part of their stuff.
Uh I really don't know how I feel about like now we have two Royal Knights decks floating around. I really don't. Like I don't know what they're going to do with Royal Knights. I they need to stop doing it. Like stop supporting like it's not even the main focus deck and it got more support than the main focus decks for the entire year. Granted, I don't think like last year had any main focus decks because some of the other trends with the Digimon card game is usually they have like an overarching theme that'll last the whole year. Seekers was like the prime example of that, where it's like BT14 was the start of when they started doing Seeker stuff. And then that entire whole year was every single set something Seekers related that progressed with the story of Seekers. We saw it with Liberators, where it's just like Liberators was more of a sub theme and not really the focus theme. But as long as Liberators was running, it was getting the same type of treatment. We've seen it with Cross Wars as a more uh, earlier example, where it's just like, okay, BT10 rolls around, and that whole year, every single mainline set had Cross Wars support somewhere. Um, so, like, usually they have a main theme and a sub theme, and the fact that Royal Knights wasn't even a sub theme, and it got more support than main theme stuff, just, ugh. Just
Yeah,
stop supporting it. Stop it.
it's not gonna be great.
No,
Not at all.
and I think players definitely have that sentiment where it's just I don't want to say it's content fatigue, it's just deck fatigue. It's like we've seen this deck perform for already pretty much a whole year of support and we're just sick and tired of seeing it. We honestly are. Um and yes, they're trying to sell us a new way to play Royal Knights, but I think players just I mean, they're obviously going to try it out, but like we're just sick and tired of seeing these Digimon over and over again.
Yeah, I'm not gonna deny that one.
Because we just saw them, and now we're seeing them again a year later, and then they got more support from Liberators, and it's just like, God, stop it.
And then all of a sudden, like, oh yeah, by the way, EX13 may support TS version of Row Knights. It's like, guys, why? Why? Why do
Yeah,
you do this?
I don't know, because like, what are they gonna do? They already peaked at Yggdrasil, and Yggdrasil already proved to be somewhat problematic. In from BT13, it's just like, how can they make a new Royal Knights deck that's better than that? Like I don't think they can. I really don't.
Give
If
them the same reduced mechanics as the Olympus 12, and then bam.
I don't even think that'll be good enough because the Olympus 12 isn't reducing enough. Like they play one body a turn and like the opponent still could try to play out of it just because they give a lot of memory. Granted, like that's where Dan and Cannon's supposed to come in, where it's just like, okay, I play this and then I get an option for free, and then I get to attack on top of their effects, and then I also could potentially use their effect again with Homeros. Like I understand how and why they got to the conclusion that they did. Um I'm not happy with it, but I can
No one
understand.
is.
Yeah, and it's funny because like I do think Time Strangers was accidental power creep. I didn't think that they intended for us to use the cards the way they were supposed to be used. Because I've been saying it like before, like Sylphimon TS slop deck is probably just arguably one of the best ways to play it, and Nationals definitely kind of proved me right on that. Worlds or will be very interesting to see what develops in terms of the new Time Stranger tech. Um, if they're going to adapt to the EX 11 environment. Because EX 11, oh boy, it's got some powerhouses in it. So I guess to
I've
kind
been
of wrap,
playing around with that one.
yeah. So
It
I guess to
is.
wrap things up, we could talk a little bit about EX 11.
So with EX11, it has a lot of good stuff that came in it. This is one of the sets I would highly recommend to beginning players because some of the cards in there are very beginner friendly. However, we
I
also
think the
got touch
opposite.
ups.
I literally think the opposite. Like if you didn't invest in a Liberator deck already, or are looking to invest it in a Liberator deck, just ignore the set. Because not all the Liberator decks are good.
No, no, by far, not all of them are goods. Bees is not good. As much as I want bees to be good, they are not.
I think Bees is fine.
They're fine, yes, but they're not good.
Better than some of the other ones, as we already covered in the tier list.
That's it. Not going into that one again. But yeah,
No, so like,
this set is if you go invested in a Liberator deck, good. You're good to go ahead. If you're coming in, it's a little bit pricey because the deck that comes out of there of Ex Machinix is still going to be one of the better decks, despite where it is right now. You will have to pull at least 2 to 3 of the secret to be able to play it properly. But that shouldn't be a problem, as you can also splash in stuff like the Balder arms or
I would not. Like after playing a little bit of the deck myself, that card Ex Machina is a mandatory 4 of. I tried running him at anything less than 4, and the deck completely fell apart on its face. Like it was actually legitimately terrible. Because the way the deck works is you want to keep all of your colors the same. So when you start digivolving a Digimon into, let's just say, a green Digimon, you want your next one and next one to be green and also green. Only mix match if you know you can go into an instant Ex Machina where then the effects don't matter. But if you don't have the ability to go into an Ex Machina, you're losing out on a lot of value by not going into their proper lines, which makes things incredibly awkward because they obviously have abilities that they're missing out on that you're forced into suboptimal play lines. And it only becomes optimal when you go into Ex Machina. And you need to see that card, like, you have to see that card. That's why he's a mandatory 4 of. I think, like, EX11 is actually, like, the opposite of what you're saying. I personally don't think it's a new player friendly set because it already expects you to either A, get everything from the deck that you're going to be getting, or B, already have it, which means you're already enfranchised enough to get into it. Now, there are some cheap Liberator decks that are halfway decent. Fishes is pretty good. Just as an example, I think that's one of the more slept on Liberator decks. So, like, that's just an
they
example.
guarantee OTK, and that is stupid on its own.
Yeah, but that's just like an example. Even though like yes, the fish support isn't necessarily like a whole lot of cards out of EX11 worth buying an entire booster box for. Um that's why I think like this set is not really, it's a good set from all of the cards designed. In terms of like a new player set, this is definitely not a new player set in my perspective.
Mm, well, yeah, I'll just go ahead and concede that one to you. Moving on, though, Vortex is actually the new war criminal on the block. The simple fact that he can, if anything suspends at all, he doesn't care. He will literally restand, challenge it to a battle, and then enter blocker timing, which is stupid.
The way I like to describe Vortex Dramon is he is BT16 Magnamon X 2.0. Like he is doing play patterns wise almost the exact same thing as Magnamon X Antibody, because he's just a big immune body with high DP that is just slowly going to whittle away at the opponent. Except he's obviously better than Magnamon X Antibody because he actually can remove Digimon and hit higher numbers than what Magnamon X Antibody does. But play patterns wise, they're literally almost the exact same thing. Because you have easy access to like get up into a warp play with him, and you have a lot of
He's
good
easily
synergy.
removed by options.
Yeah, he has the same weaknesses too, where it's just like, okay, he's removed by options, and like lingering effects also impact him. So, like, if he can't suspend, like, he just can't suspend, especially if that's a lingering effect. Or, like, if they have lingering DP minuses, it's just like, okay, I'm gonna minus 15k DP onto your magnetic, or your, not magnetic, um,
Your
your
vortex.
Vortex Dramon, and then going into your turn, he's just gonna instantly die. So like he has the same weaknesses, just more strengths. So that's why I think like those two cards are very synonymous with one another in terms of what they're doing. And we've already seen in the past like how good a card like Magnamon X Antibody can be.
The other thing is the fact that he requires a Digimon other than himself. He needs to suspend one of your Digimon to guarantee get his immunity and that swing.
Yeah, but you suspend himself.
Yeah, you can. And then he unsuspends himself, and then you'll lose his. It's generally the same BS as usual.
No, so ideally, like you leave him up for a blocker, they suspend, and then you suspend yourself, and then gain all of the immunities and unsuspend. Like he's an easier trigger to repeatedly gain immunity than Magnamon X is. So like that's also going into why I think like he's very Magnamon X coded, is because like
He is the criminal.
he's just, they're coded almost the same thing. Um just more powerful, obviously.
Yeah, this
And
thing is obviously the new best green level 7.
yeah, and the fact that he's a generic green card is also extra spooky. So now we have to reevaluate every single green deck to now incorporate this card. Which is exactly why he's holding the Magnamon X level price point that he is, almost reaching uh, Medieval Gallantmon pricing, is because he can be played in literally every single green deck, and there's zero downside to running him. Absolutely zero.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. Even in the Bs, you run him because you can search him with Honeycomb Commander, and it's just disgusting, just climbing all the way up there and then just sitting on him.
Yeah, no, it's he's definitely a very very strong card. Obviously I think he's the big winner of EX11, like by far. Ex Machina, I think I might have rated him too high after like playing him a little bit. Still need to do more testing and iterating, but I think I honestly rated him way too high. Once you get into Ex Machina, he's very good. Don't get me wrong. He can just rip through the opponent's security pretty easily, and he has like some halfway decent protections. But there's a lot of decks that could just delete a Digimon like 6, 7 times. Yes, I did that on purpose. So there's a lot of decks that could just delete a Digimon multiple times, and then his protection just fundamentally doesn't matter. It's like, look at Gallantmon. It's just like, yeah, I'm going to Digivolve, delete your Digimon. And then I'm going to Digivolve again, delete your Digimon. And then I'm going to swing, and then you're going to block, and then your Digimon's going to get deleted. And then I'm going to have, like, end of turn attack, and then delete another Digimon. Like,
I'm pretty sure Gallant's going to be the only one that can actually challenge that, especially with the new Gallantmon.
no, Strachio could do the same thing. And I think with the new support, you also have rocks and minerals that could do the same thing. Where it's just like, yeah, I'm gonna swing, unsuspend, burn your security, delete your Digimon, then do it again. And then I also now have a new level 6 that can delete Digimon as well. So it's just like, okay, cool, I'm gonna level 6, delete your Digimon, Digivolve into Magnetic, delete your Digimon, swing, delete your Digimon. And then
Mm-hmm.
now you're pretty much left with nothing. So yeah, there's a lot of decks that could delete Digimon multiple times. Heck, even Ghosts can do it.
I know I could do it with Matsibun. It
Yeah.
just takes me a minute.
So I think I like overvalued his protection. It's more annoying than actually good is where I'm leaning with it. Um and then I do think like some of the other Liberator stuff I might have like overvalued. The new Tyrannomon is just not good. That card's legitimately bad. I understand you want to delete your own Digimon, but why would I do that? I would rather just not delete my own Digimon. Um and like cuz that card's not super great if he's the only one, it feels like. So, yeah, there's obviously some winners and losers of the set. And we could get into that a little bit more some other time. Because otherwise, we're just
Yeah.
going back and retreading and looking at our ban and restriction list, or not ban and restriction, our tier list, and just saying, okay, maybe we were kind of right and wrong on some of these.
I
Which
could definitely see that. We needed to put freaking Heavy a lot higher with how Heavy's doing right now.
heavy?
Yeah,
What do you mean by heavy?
Heavy Metal.
Oh, uh, it did get a very noticeable upgrade. Like I will say it is a lot better than what I was initially giving it credit for. Do I still think it's like great? No, but it definitely is a very big step up. It's like on a macro level thing. If heavy metal was like a tier 7 deck, he's probably tier like 3 right now, which like that doesn't sound like a huge jump. But we have to remember this is Digimon and the in between tiers is actually leaps and bounds in terms of jumps. So it was a very
Hmm.
massive jump. Um
Yeah, he actually is a bit of a threat when it comes to EX11 with how fast it can kill, especially when you incorporate something like the Growl engine, which is nothing but dark dragons.
yeah, it's an interesting deck. I will definitely say that. I don't think it's nearly as bad as it once was. I think like it's solely centered around the new tamer though. And you have to have the new tamer, otherwise the deck is still kind of just in the same awful spot as it
No
once
doubt, she's a
was.
four of.
Oh, 100%. Um
She is a four of, two of your memory setter, and a one of the EX7 if you play her.
Yeah, so even though like I don't think heavy metal is like super high tier meta competitive, I do think like it is one of the big winners of the set in terms of making its deck cohesive. And honestly, it feels like it's like one or two more waves of support away from actually being like incredibly extra spooky.
Yeah, but that's just if we get more general on the Dark Dragon.
I think it's just more like I can do more things out of my trash kind of just makes it spooky enough. But this is why, like, from a macro level standpoint, I think that Medusa definitely is another huge winner because she just has more ways to remove cards out of the opponent's trash for no discernible reason other than she did it in BT24. So, like,
Yeah.
and we already saw from BT24 that Medusa is one of the stronger decks. So, the fact that now you already have a stronger deck, same thing with rocks, that now are getting stronger, definitely is something to be put on your watch list. Um, So I think like honestly the three biggest winners in my perspective from the set is Shoto, Close, and Owen. I feel like those three decks got the biggest power bump that's also already meta competitive outside of Shoto, but Shoto was starting to see some mild success. Um,
Yeah, now he is catapulted straight into I'm going one of the decks that will topple one of the big three.
yeah, I think like just like how Magnamon X warped BT16 and how we had to play BT16 going forward, which is why Numemon did so well is because it had lingering DP reduction. Um, I do think that Vortex is in that same type of a position where it's a very game warping card, and will definitely change a lot of matchups, and change a lot of like matchup spreads for events. So like I
Yeah.
think like the TS slop deck actually got worse literally because Shoto exists, or like Vortex Dramon exists, because it's just like, okay, I'm gonna play out my Mervamon. It's just like, cool, I'm gonna suspend myself, make myself immune, fight your Mervamon. Congratulations, your Mervamon did absolutely nothing it was supposed to do. Just as like a baseline example, or like against Neptune, it's just like, yeah, I could still just beat up you, and you suspend yourself also and unsuspend, and I just don't care. So yeah, definitely Shoto definitely feels like the biggest winner. And then obviously Close and Owen were already meta competitive, and they just got more tools to make them better.
Yeah, agree 100% on that.
Yeah, Puppets is in a weird spot just because Puppets has a lot of tools. So I think like Puppets has a lot
I
of
think I
potential.
think it just got it the shaft just got shafted on that completely because it has too much tools to where it falls in the line of having so many different ways that it loses out on so many different potential.
I think the biggest problem is there's not a lot of good deck builders on Puppets to solve what is the most optimal way to play Puppets. I think like once we get that, somebody who's dedicated enough to solve that problem, then Puppets is definitely going to be something to look out for. Um, but until that is actually solved, because the muddiness of running both lines does make things a little bit more awkward in terms of how its game plan wants to unfold. And like, yes, you could say, oh, but it just wants to play tokens. But it's just like, yeah, but each deck plays tokens a little bit differently. And they have cards that are trying to play off of each other to try to make it happen. But because of that, it's just muddying deck space up. So, like, I think it has a lot of potential, but it just is going to need a very good deck builder and pilot to be able to put everything together and show everyone that, hey, this is how you actually play Puppets.
Yeah. As far as the off-brand ones, Wicked God definitely deserves where we put it.
What
Lusamon
I
hasn't
think Wicked
seen
God
real,
is really good.
yeah, where we put it for right now.
I don't remember where I know we put it pretty low, but I think it's better than what we were anticipating. It again just feels like
Well,
Puppets, where it just needs the right engine to make its game plan more cohesive. And
Ground
I
Legend, cough cough.
yeah, and I think like it's not going to take very much effort in order to optimize just simply hard playing a uh Millennium using, what is it, assembly. Yeah, I think like that's just fundamentally how you're gonna have to play Millennium. It's just
It's
turbo your trash and then hard slam assemble and reduce the cost because of the option.
yeah. Lusamon, it really isn't going much. DCGO is still the card to play for that to potential, but you're still just ending your turn straight off of playing a normal Lusamon.
I think like
As far as
the big thing with Lucimon, because I did play against a little bit of him, is like he could turbo into his level 6, but the deck really isn't that spooky if you know what to sacrifice at any given moment. And I think like
Hmm.
that's the hard part is knowing what to sacrifice, whether it's going to be sacrificing your Digimon or Tamers or security. But just the fact that they can turbo into their level 6 is a little on the spooky side. I'm not going to lie. But then again, I already said and prefaced it based on our tier list. Like, I don't necessarily think any of these decks are that bad. Um, it's just there are other things that are probably better than it. But all of these decks did get a noticeable boost in power, which is rare for EX sets.
Yeah. But other than that, there are some decks that have the potential with the right pilot. There are other decks that just straight have criminals running around in them. And then you got the ones like what we were just talking about, which have mild amount of potential in the right hands of the right group.
Yeah. So I guess we'll do worlds predictions some other time while we still are playing with EX11 and figuring out the format. Cuz this is going to be a very it's going to be a very interesting world to say the least cuz EX11 uh, is going to be legal for worlds, and that's data we will never have on how good some of these EX11 decks are because there's no more tournaments until post nationals or not nationals, post worlds. Um,
Yeah,
until basically the next season starts. So EX11 is going to basically have almost zero data to go off of to like make any assertions as far as what's actually going
it's
to be
not just
good.
EX11, it's also going to be the. Oh no, 8001 comes out after
It does, but
Worlds.
there's no
Well,
there's not going to be any tournaments for any of the 80 updates. So you're
yeah.
technically right where 80 is also going to have no discernible data. Um
I think the next one that will have probably discernible data will be our next BT set coming in April.
yeah, that's when we're actually going to start getting data again. But I guess to kind of wrap things up, we could look at Japan lands to see where they're at with EX11. So their number one deck, do you want to guess?
Vortex?
So close. It's Medusa. Their number one deck right now is Medusa.
Hmm,
Vortex is number two. And then everything else starts dropping off like a rock. Because you
get
have
it.
Medusa at 9 wins, you have Vortex at 7 wins. Uh, then at 3 wins, you have Rocks and Minerals. You have Hoodie also at 3 wins. And then you have Time Stranger Slop also at 3 wins. Um, so that is what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, so that's your top five decks right now from Japanland.
Oh, my poor Massimon has been dethroned. Oh
Yeah,
well.
arguably because Time Stranger Slap has like so many things. You could probably say Time Stranger Slap is probably their third best deck actually. Um, just because like they have multiple variants. It's all like relatively samey stuff. I think the only like discernible difference in terms of like decks is like if it's running blue or not, or if it's running AGO stuff or not. I think like that's the only real big differentiating factor. Outside of that, it's all just Time Stranger slap.
Yeah.
But yeah, so those are your top five decks from Japan. I'm not going to go and elaborate past that because everything else has like 2 or 1 wins. And it's still very early in Japanese data. But in terms of like the big standout outliers, it is Rocks and Minerals, Hoodie, Time Strangers, Shoto, and Owen. Shocker.
Uh,
Shocker. I know, right?
I mean, everyone loves the edgy bad boy.
Yeah. So I think that's a good place to stop it for this episode. We obviously covered a lot and talked a lot. So tell us your thoughts about anything down in the comments below, as well as your comment of the week for next week, also. Any closing thoughts, Guardian?
Oh, beware the war criminal that is Vortex Dramon. If you sleep on him, he will hurt you.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I just played a game against Rocks while we were talking, and I made them rage quit because they were doing rock shenanigans. Decided to swing with two pyramides. I'm like, cool. The pyramid with no sources auto battles me, and I block the other while being bigger than you. They rage quit.
Yeah, Vortex is definitely going to be a very interesting deck, and seeing how the meta develops around it. Um, but that's all we have for this week. Thank you, everyone, for coming out and listening. It really does mean the world to us, because without you, we are just two goofballs talking about the children's card game on the internet. So, thank you all again, and we hope to see you all in the next episode. Later.